What is the single most important thing in any transformation project, in any change project? Yeah, you guessed it. It's people, of course. But what is the second most important thing in any transformation project? That is having the right people at the right place with the right attitude. That's the topic for today. Welcome back. I'm Frederick. When planning transformation projects or programs, it is extremely important to look at the people who will be running these projects. Of course, it's also important to understand the implications that the projects they have on the rest of the organization. But for now and for this vlog, I'll be talking about the people who are supposed to run these projects. And depending on the size of the project, this can be anything from a couple of teams of maybe 5, 10, 15 people up to hundreds of people, depending on the scope and the size of the project. When you're looking to assign resources to these projects, you need some kind of tool that gives you an idea of if you're having the right people at the right place. And that's where I use what I call the Will Skill Matrix. It is an extremely simple tool, and that also means that when you use it, you should regard it as a simple tool. It is not a psychological test or anything. It is a simple tool that helps you get an overview of the people that you're having on your projects. Basically, the Will Skill Matrix is a matrix with two axes. One is an idea of the competences of the people that you're working with. Do they have the competences required to solve the tasks, or do they not have the competences at the moment? On the other axis, you have the will. Do they have the will to work with you? Are they motivated, engaged, or are they disengaged and not motivated, or do they not want to work with you? So now a very simple exercise is taking the people that you are planning on manning these projects with and then map them into this matrix. So you'll take each and every person and say, this person, I need him or her to do these things in this project. Is that person capable of doing this at the moment? And then place the person in the can or cannot. On the other hand, the same person, is he or she motivated to be part of this project, wants to make part of this change of the company? Will or will not? And that's what you do with all the persons that you are planning to man in this project. Now, when you're looking at the competences, I would suggest that you are looking at the competences required for the future role, for the project role, not necessarily the competences that are required to do the job that they're doing today. So you'll have to map them after what you need them to do in this change project. With the people mapped, you now have 4 different actions to take. The people who are in the cannot and will not, I wouldn't even consider asking them to join the change project, because they don't have the competences required, but they also don't have the will, the interest in being with you on this project. They should probably stay in their current job or doing something else. Now, when you have the people who have the will, but maybe not the skill, the cannot but will, these are the ones where you should consider, do we have the resources to train them, to reskill them, so they can be part of this change project? And this is important because the second you have people with the will, with the attitude towards making this a success, these are extremely important in working with you towards the change process and the change project success. That's what you want to do. You want people who are interested in making this a success. On another side of the scope, you have the people who have the competences. They know everything that they have to know in order to complete this project successfully. However, they don't have the will. For unknown reasons, they're not interested in joining the project. They may be seen as trying to stop the project from happening. When you're looking at these people, you have to understand and talk to them, or maybe their managers, to see if they can be turned around, they can be motivated to work on the project. As I said before, it's extremely important that the people are working on the project, they have the right attitude towards making this a success. So in many cases, if you don't have that attitude and you cannot create it, you should reconsider to what extent you need those competences that the people they have, because you may find that they will be becoming roadblocks and stopping the process. The last category are the people who have the competences that you need, but also the attitude and the motivation. These are your superstars. These are the people that you should build on, you should grow more, you should make sure that are in focus and they run the projects. A very typical mistake that many managers are making is actually ignoring these people because they're running by themselves, they're doing everything and they're motivated to do so. But when the managers ignore them, they also ignore the fact that humans actually need recognition. And if the people don't get this recognition, you risk to put them into, they have the skill, but all of a sudden they don't have the will anymore because they don't get the recognition that they feel that they deserve. The last thing that you have to consider is the authority of all these people. Because maybe when you create the work groups, the task forces, you have to understand, do they actually have the authorities, the power, if you like, to complete the projects that they have to complete? And if they don't, they're not going to go anywhere, regardless of how motivated they are. So you'll have to talk to management, or you have to change their authority so they can actually implement the changes that they have to implement. As I said, this is an extremely simple matrix, but it's also, for me, extremely valuable because it gives you this really quick overview of where you are with the people that you want to work with. And it also gives you a good idea of how you should deal with the different kinds of people. Should you offer them rescaling so they can actually get the competences that they need when they have the attitude towards it? Or can you talk with the ones who have the competences, but maybe not the attitude, and say, okay, how can we make this relevant for you? How can we make this really interesting so you want to work with me and you want to work with this project? Simple, easy to use tool. I hope you enjoyed it. Get out there and get successes. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and good luck. Goodbye.